My name's Gillian, usually known as Jill, and I'm one of the volunteers in the museum who is very happy to talk about the things here, particularly the tokens. We're looking at objects that women left with their children when those children were admitted to the hospital in order that they might be able to claim them back one day. So they are very, very important to that mother who's come to the hospital, bringing something with her that's important for the rest of her life and the rest of her child's life. Well, the thimble is one of these tokens that was left by a woman in about the 1750s. And I think it's very special because it's something that somebody has worn and used. It's a tool. And anything like that, you know from the things you own yourself, that they're very special when they're things that have been handled by somebody in your family. I've got my mother's cutting out scissors, and I've got a screwdriver that my dad left to me. And it has that same quality of memory, I think, this thimble, because we know that it was left by a mother in a very tight moment in her life. We think it's a silver thimble. That's a bit extraordinary if this woman was in hard circumstances, but the museum catalogue says it's silver, and it does look as if it was a soft metal because somebody squeezed it at some time, it's got squashed, but it doesn't look the thimble or the object of a wealthy woman. I think it looks perhaps a working thimble, very much it's a tool somebody has used. The dimpled bit at the top, that's where, when you were putting a needle in, you've got the thimble on your finger, that was where the needle, the eye of the needle would catch and give you a little bit of push. The girl who was using it, she was using it as a tool. I think she might have worked for a family. She might have been a living-in girl. We have to remember that absolutely everything we wore or we used in those days was handmade. It was hand sewn. So she may have had a job, perhaps living with a rich family, and she would have been looking after all the sheets and all the towels and all the household linen, as well as the clothing for the family, darning and mending. That might have been her job. And there she would have been very important that everything was kept clean. She'd have to be very careful. Or she might have worked in like a sweatshop where she was having to work on a piece basis with her clothing. She would have had to be very careful that the eye of the needle, when she was pushing it through, didn't puncture her finger, because you got one drop of blood on something and you'd have been out for a job, because that would have been taken out of your wages, and you'd been. And for a girl who was pregnant, of course, if she lost her home as well as her job at the same time, she was in trouble. And so this tool would have been very useful for this lady who was leaving her child at the hospital. We set ourselves the task of going through every billet to see what we could match up. We've been through all 18,000 between us. Yeah, we've been very fortunate to be the ones that did it. It represents somebody's life, doesn't it? Hardest moment in that person's life, to give away a child. You don't do it lightly, do you? But we've seen from all the notes with the billets that it wasn't an abandonment. They weren't prostitutes who wanted to get on with back to work again. These were families that were in hard times. They had no choice. There was no safety net under anybody then, was there? We've got, even now in COVID, we've still got the NHS, and we've got furloughs and payment for our wages and things. But they had nothing whatsoever, did they? You think about it. Well, that's what I take away from it.